Come on, man. We're so excited about the Seeds series, man. This is a topic, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you, that I've been wanting to talk on for a long time. Matter of fact, last April, we were hoping to get to talk on it, and then a lot changed last March. Come on, somebody. Amen. But we're back on track, and we are having a lot of fun. Amen. Come on, somebody. You got to wake up today. Come on, you forgot what church you were in, I think. Come on, somebody. Okay, there we go. Come on now, we're getting better. So we're in this series, Seeds, and I'm starting off, I'm going to talk about my apple, because I love apples. Apples are my favorite fruit. I love everything about apples. Like, I love applesauce. I love fried apples. I love anybody love apple pie? Yeah. 3 of you, the rest of y'all, I'm praying for your salvation right now. Come on, somebody. Anybody love apple pie? That's my favorite. I love everything about apples. Matter of fact, we had an apple tree in my yard when I was growing up. And we played this game. I'm all boy, right? So like we are roughhousing and playing ball and everything that we do. And we had this game that we'd play. We had this dog pen. We had this big St. Bernard. We'd put the St. Bernard out. And we also had coon dogs back down there. But anyhow, we'd put out the St. Bernard and we'd put one of our friends in the dog pen. And we would pull apples off the tree. And we would throw the apples as hard as we could at whoever was in the pen, and we called it Dodge the Apple. And it was great because when it would hit the chain link fence, it would like divide into like 6 or 8 pieces, and you were afraid for your life. Come on, amen. It was amazing, y'all. We absolutely loved it. It was apple tree in our yard now we have, and last year, it's our first year living at this spot, and we were excited because the apples were just about ripe, and we were going on vacation. And we come back from vacation, and the apples, all of them were gone. I've told this story, it's been a while, but all of the apples were gone. Grant, all of the apples were gone. And I'm talking, some of them were way up. Like, it wasn't like they were all here, right? So it wasn't deer, like some were way up. So we get back, and I thought, maybe my wife's mom, she lives a couple houses down, maybe she took the apples because she gonna make me some apple pie. Again, I love apple pie. Come on, amen. That was just optimistic. That didn't happen. I thought maybe my mom took the apples. That didn't happen. Someone, no joke, came onto our property and stole all of our... Y'all, I'm bitter. Like, I'm trying to get through this, but I'm sure they took all of our apples off of the tree. We're talking in Matthew chapter 13, 3 through 9. Let's look at this. And he told them many things in parables, saying, a sower went out to sow. And as some seeds fell along the path, the birds came and devoured them. And other seeds fell on the rocky ground where they did not have much soil, and immediately they sprang up. But because there was no depth of soil, but when the sun rose, they were scorched. And since they had no root, they withered away. And some seeds fell among the thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked them. And some seeds fell on good soil and produced grain, some 100-fold, some 60, and some 30. We're in this series, we're talking about the seed. We're in this seed series, and I'm looking at this, and I'm reading this text, and I thought maybe we're the soil. Right? Like there's 4 soils. There's 4 types of soils, and we represent one of those types of soil. So maybe we're the types of soil. And matter of fact, it says that the sower went out to sow, and the first place he sowed, it says some fell on the road. Now, I need us to understand our English language, y'all, is terrible. So when it says some fell, like the sower wasn't walking and tripped and fell and dumped out some of his seed out of his pouch. I wanted to fill one of these full of seed, so I could be throwing it the whole time, but they would have killed me. Mama Maples would have hurt me as messy as it would have been, so I didn't do it. But he didn't like trip and some seed just fell out, right? Like I've planted food plots for deer, and some fall. Like that wasn't the case. The word fell out there in the Greek literally means to be cast down. It was intentional. He was walking and he threw some, and it says some was cast down on the side of the road, and as he got there, it says that there was no depth of soil. The ground was hard, and the birds, because it was the road, the birds of the air came, and it took the seed. I thought, if I'm the soil, if we are the soil, the soil in the first soil, it was too hard, right? And I was thinking, y'all, how life has a way, like disappointments, discouragements, like heartaches, offenses, bitterness, frustration. has a way of making our heart hard. So God is trying to show us things and trying to give us seed and trying to help us. But because of life situations, because life isn't fair and because life is hard and because we become calloused and we don't allow the soil, we don't allow the seed to come in and do something in our heart. Now, what's fascinating about that is the seed, it doesn't produce a harvest for a while, right? Right? And so the seed isn't really a blessing in this season. The intention of the seed is to be produce or a blessing in the next season. See, sometimes we're in these hard situations and we're frustrated and we're maybe a little bit angry and we don't know what to do, right? And we're having all these struggles and God is trying to do some things in our life, but because we're hard and we're bitter and we don't allow him to do it, what we don't understand is what God is trying to do in us is today isn't for today, but it's for the next season. But because we're too hard today, we miss the blessing and the favor and the provision later because we're too hard today. Come on, somebody. And then what happens when we're hard-hearted, it says that the birds, the enemy, came and stole what God was trying to do. I wonder how many of us have had some things stole. Come on, somebody. Because we were too hard in one season. I thought maybe this next soil, it says, was rocky soil. The sower goes to sow and he throws some by the road and then he throws some, the Bible says, and it was rocky soil. And it says that the soil wasn't deep enough, right? It says the soil was rocky and because it was rocky, it had just a very little bit of depth. Look at your neighbor and say, it's time to get out of the kiddie pool. What do you mean, Pastor? Well, I got a 4-year-old named Benaiah. Now listen, if Benaiah matter of fact, he was taking a bath last night and he said, Dad, can I put my floaties on? I said, Bud, I don't even know where your floaties are at, homie. I don't know. I don't even know where they're at. And they're hanging in the bathtub. That means he's done it a lot. He goes, they're right there. I said, no, take a bath. Come on, somebody. But if Benny if you go to the pool, right, the town pool, and Benny's got his floaties on and he's playing in the pool, no one thinks anything of it. Right, at 4 years old. But if Pastor Clinton at 34, come on somebody, if he's got a little swim diaper on and he's got his floaties on and he's swimming in the pool, y'all gonna be checking your kids. Come on somebody, am I right? Because that's just not, there's something wrong with that scenario. No, the problem is in our spiritual walk, we got to go a little deeper, y'all. We got to mature. We got to grow up. I love the imagery in I believe it's Ezekiel 30, I wrote it down, I think. Maybe I wrote it down. 47, Ezekiel 47, the imagery, it says, the Spirit of God took me to the river of God and he put me ankle deep. And then it felt so good. He took me knee deep and it was so good. And then it says, he took me, the King James Version says loin deep, that's waist deep. Now, all the guys in the house know the first time you get in the lake of the year, when you hit about waist deep, it changed the way you walk. Y'all feel me? Right? See, as we mature in our walk with God, as we grow, it should change the way we walk. We shouldn't walk the way we used to. We shouldn't go to the same places and do the same stuff that we used to, because we should be maturing in our faith and growing in our faith. And he says in Ezekiel 47, and it changed the way I walk. And then he took me over my head where I was swimming and overwhelmed and overtaken by the goodness and the mercies and the incredible things that God has. See, that's the goal. The goal is that we mature. Get out of the kiddie pool. Come on, somebody. That's weird. Come on, somebody. Right? There's a season. It's okay if they play the right song and it moves us. But Pastor JR said something that's so real. He said, y'all should have brought your worship with you. Right? Right? We always say it like this. You shouldn't wait for the preacher, whoever's preaching, whether that's me or Pastor Clinton or someone else, to baby bird you. Come on, somebody. You ought to be in it yourself too. Come on, somebody. Amen. It says that it was rocky soil and it sprouted, but it didn't mature. It didn't mature. It's funny. I got choked up at the exact same point last service. The next, it must be prophetic. The next soil that he threw some seed was thorny soil. And it said it started to grow, but the thorns choked the life, choked the produce, choked the hope, choked the future out of the seed. And I wondered how many of us guys The thorns, Jesus would later on say, they're really the distractions of life. How many of us, man, God put something in our heart to do. He put something in our heart, a ministry or an idea or a dream or a vision or something that he's put, you can tell he wants you to do. But because life has a way, and I'm the worst at this, I'm in the middle of trying to make a point and I'm talking about a squirrel, right? Because that's what I do. I'm constantly chasing and I'm constantly like moved by the next coolest thing. I'm like, what's over there? Life has a way of causing us to do that. Life has a way of causing us to be on track and we're doing good. But then there's something shiny and we go check it out. Anybody struggle with that? He said, in your process to maturing, in your process to growing, in your process to becoming who God's called you to be, it's easy for us to become distracted by so many things that we miss what God has for us. And then he says there's good soil. And the good soil produces 30, 60, or 100-fold. Look at your neighbor and say, I'm one of four. I'm a good soil. Listen, you get to decide. I think at any point in our life, some of us, we rocky soil. Some of us a little bit thorny. Come on, somebody. Some of us, we along the road. We just as we go, right? At different points in our life, we represent different soils. But I'm deciding I'm going to be good soil. 25% of the soil that the seed came to produced something. Decide to be good soil. Come on, somebody. Amen. Decide that you're going to water the seed, feed the seed. Decide you're going to nourish and steward the seed that God has given you. What if you're the soil? But then I thought, what if you're not the soil? Coach D, what if you're not the soil? What if you're the seed? Right? What if you're the seed? And I can't talk to you. I'm just talking to me right now. But I thought to myself, if I'm the seed, I'm going to be the kind of seed that produces something despite the soil. Can I preach somebody? If I'm the seed, I don't care what's going on in my world. I'm going to produce something. Am I talking? Listen, I don't care how life is. If I am the seed, I am going to be the kind of seed that produces a harvest no matter my soil, no matter how I feel, no matter where I go, no matter what's going on in my world. I want to be the kind of seed that produces, not because of, but despite the soil that I'm planted in. Are we talking to somebody? Amen. I think it's important for us to understand, if we're the seed, that we are going to face these different soils. I think it's important for us to understand, if we are the seed, we are going to go through times that are hard. And go through times that are frustrating, and times that are lonely, and times that are confusing, times that are make us angry. I think if we're the seed, we have to decide that we're going to sprout roots. I think if we're the seed, we have to decide that we're going to do something regardless of what's going on around us. Amen? Amen. We got to decide that we're going to grow despite the soil. Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 8. Throw that up there if you would. Thanks, Doc. It says, they are like trees. You are like trees along a riverbank, with roots that reach deep into the water. Such trees are not bothered by the heat. Do you like that? Or worried. You hear that? He says, you're the kind, oh my God, I'm preaching alone today. He says, you're the kind of seed, you're the kind of person that it don't matter what hell is going on around you. You're the kind of person, you're finding a way to be fed. You're finding a way to grow. You're finding a way to produce. It don't matter what's going on. He says, you're not worried when things don't go your way because you keep growing. You're not worried when you're frustrated. You keep growing. You're not worried when there's a broken moment. You keep growing. He says, that's the kind of seed you are. You're not worried by long months of drought. He says, your leaves stay green. And what's that say? When? How about when someone does me wrong? How about when someone tries to steal the apples off my apple tree? Never one time when it was bearing their apples and someone tried to come take them. My apple tree was like, no, not for you. That apple's for me. My apple tree was never like, no, that's for Bo and Megan and Benny. No. Because the apple tree produces fruit for one reason, the world around it. The apple tree has one function in life, producing fruit. It's crazy. He says, you're going to produce fruit no matter the season. Right? I was actually doing a study on oak trees. That's a weird thing to say. but I was for preaching. But anyhow, I found some fascinating stuff about oak tree roots. I deer hunt and I like oak trees. Anyhow, and deer trees, oak trees, their roots are fascinating. Because oak trees, their roots, matter of fact, when they start growing, they grow out and they grow deep. Now, it's really cool. If they're planted near houses, they'll find their way, you've probably seen this, they'll find their way into water lines that go to houses. And the roots will constrict around the joints and around the pipe and eventually can bust the pipe. And eventually it'll work its way into the joints, into the elbows, into the places where the water lines lie. Because see, oak trees are in this place where they say, I'm not worried about someone bringing it to me. I'm going to go find it. Come on, somebody. Oak trees are in this place that are saying, I understand. I live in Missouri and things don't always go my way. And in July and August, it probably ain't going to rain. So I ain't waiting for the rain to come. I'm searching out the water. Come on, somebody. I think it's so fascinating that they find a way to thrive. So you thought it was you, right? You thought, well, God, this didn't fair. Why are you letting this happen? God's saying, I'm trying to get you to a place where you can find a way to thrive. Not only that, but they also, not just water lines, but they'll dig into septic tanks. Disgusting, as Benny would say. He'll go somewhere, we'll be out, and he'll go, Dad, that's disgusting. Like 14 syllables when he says it. Oak trees' roots will find their way into septic tanks. Sometimes life stinks. Come on. Sometimes life is just kind of cruddy or kind of crappy, man. Sometimes it's just not fair. Oak trees, though, it's funny. The very thing that would kill many plants is the very thing that causes oak trees to thrive, my God. Maybe you've been facing a situation, maybe your relationship, maybe your business, maybe your life, maybe you've had these emotional challenges and you've been saying, God, why? God, why? God, how come? God, I don't get it. God, I don't get it. God, why? God, it's not fair. God. And God's going, listen, what is going on in your life is not to harm you, but it's to help you. Come on, somebody. What is going on in your life is not to keep you from growing, but it's to be the fertilizer that'll cause you to thrive in all seasons. Listen, y'all, what could kill some will be the very thing that God can use to bless your life beyond measure. Just depends how you perceive it. It's crazy. They don't only break into septic tanks, but they'll hit basement walls and foundation walls. And the crazy thing is, they just keep pushing. And actually, they'll force their way through basement and foundation walls in houses. I think it's fascinating that Jesus, in Luke 4, he's quoting Isaiah 61, and he says, you shall be called oaks of righteousness, a planting of the Lord's splendor. He's saying he's planted you, and at some time in your life, you've hit a wall. At some time in your life, spiritually or economical or whatever it is in your life, you've hit this wall, and you've hit it, and you've shouldered it, and you're going, I don't know how to get through. I've tried to beat this temptation before, and I always struggle to it. And you hit the wall, and you hit the wall. But he says, you're an oak tree, a planting of the Lord's splendor or favor, which is so cool because oak trees, when they hit a wall, we kind of quit. Oak trees keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. And when other people give up, man, when other trees retract, oak trees, come on somebody, they keep pushing and pushing and they keep pushing and putting pressure and pressure and pushing and pushing and pushing until eventually they break through the obstacle that's trying to keep them or hold them back. I feel a breakthrough coming on. Come on somebody. I feel a breakthrough. Let's keep going. The interesting thing, though, about seeds is a seed has to be broken before it can become. Who can cut this apple in half for me? I can't do it while I preach. Kevin, you want to do it? All right, come on up here. Come on up here. You got room. This could be interesting. Come sit right here by me, buddy. You got a knife? Okay, you got a knife. Just sit right there. I'm going to keep preaching. I need you to pick a seed out. Now, the interesting thing about a seed has to be broken before it can become. And there's something in us that fights the breaking process. In our lives, in our careers, in our family, in anything that we're gonna try to thrive in anything that we're called to do, we are gonna hit this place that God says you can't do it alone anymore. Keep picking them out. You're doing great. Pick them all out. You're so awesome. Can y'all see that seed? Can you zoom in on that seed? I'm looking here. We're not zooming. That's okay. It's crazy. The seed, before it can be anything more than a seed. Can you see it, Fable? Yeah. The seed, before it can become anything more than useless. The thing that before it can become anything more than arsenic in your body, from what I was told when I was a kid, if you eat apple seeds, you die. Anybody else remember that? I don't know if it's true. It worked. I'm terrified of apple seeds. Before it can become anything else, before it can grow, before anything else happens, it has to be broken. See, and sometimes in our spiritual walk, God brings us to these moments and we're saying, God, what am I feeling? Why am I feeling this? And God's going, I'm lovingly trying to break you. Because all who, the New Testament says this, all who fall on the rock, which is Jesus, are broken, but all who the rock fall on will be crushed. There's just two seeds in there. Isn't that interesting? Thank you. Thank you. No, you look good right there. Unless if it's uncomfortable for you. You're good?
I mean, I'd rather go back.
Okay, you can eat the apple if you want to. Thank you. You can go back. Thank you. Let's hear it for him. That was great. I was just going to leave you up there the whole time. Now, before the seed can become, it has to be broken. Why do we fight the breaking process so hard? Because it's uncomfortable. It hurts. Because it deals with me and my flesh and my struggles, right? It deals with me. I think it's important for us to understand that God, though, when it comes to breaking, he never wants to break us down. He only wants to break us open. Because this, by itself, can do nothing. But when this fulfills its process, it'll feed all my neighbors in my neighborhood. Or whoever stole my apples. It's crazy. It's crazy. Maybe you're the seed, maybe you're the soil, but maybe you're not the seed. Maybe you're not the soil. Maybe you're the sower. Let's look at that in context. The sower went out to sow. What an interesting thing for the sower to do. The sower went out to sow. And as he sowed, as he went, he sowed, some fell, but he cast down. So he threw some seed on the side of the road. I think it's fascinating. Like, I'm picturing this the way Bo Norman thinks. And if I was the sower, I'd be walking and going, I wonder what happens if I throw some right here. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just curious. As he went, he threw some seed on the side of the road. As he went to do his life, as he went to go see his family, he sowed some seed on the side of the road. As he went, someone else said, as you go, someone else, Jesus Christ of Nazareth, as he went about doing good, wherever he went about doing good, healing all that were oppressed of the devil. Come on, somebody. See, it's fascinating. As he went, there was a blind man named Bartimaeus that had no future, that had no hope. He was broken in every way. And he cried out to Jesus, Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me. And Jesus healed the lame man. And the blind man picked up his mat. And it says from that minute, he could see. The word says, for lack of vision, my people perish. From that moment, he began to follow Jesus. From that moment, he began to have vision. And he could see what God sees. So he could do what God does. And so he could go where God goes. It's so fascinating. As Jesus went, man, he protected a prostitute that was deserving of death. As he went, matter of fact, a cousin of his had just died and he was sad and he was pulling away from people to have a moment of mourning, and 5,000 men plus their wives and their children show up. He's trying to get away, but they needed what was on the inside of him. Come on, somebody. As you go, God has put something on the inside of you, and the soil around you needs what God has given you. Come on, somebody. How about passed out right there? Sweet Jesus. Got a little lightheaded. It says that he cast some seeds on the side of the road, and the birds came and ate it. You ever whatever the area of your life, but when we cast seed, you ever find yourself trying to keep the birds away? Like trying to protect it? In our lives, we cast seed, and then we find ourselves like frantically trying to, like I'm imagining like the birds are coming to eat the seed, and we're like, no, man, I cast that seed and I'm trying to protect, I minister to that person, I'm trying to help them, and I counsel them and they annoyed me, but I did it anyhow, and I'm trying to, and we're chasing these birds away, and the Spirit of God spoke to me, and he said, son, you're not a scarecrow, you're a sower. The problem is a lot of us are spending all of our energy chasing the birds away from the seed that God gave us to cast, and we're chasing the birds away versus sowing seed. You're not a scarecrow. You're a sower. Keep sowing. And heaven will keep reaping. It says some fell in the rocky soil. Sometimes we get around people and we're like, God, they're just not deep enough. They just don't get it. You ever said that? Had this friend in high school. He played basketball with me. He was on the team. And every day after practice, he'd say, you want to play one-on-one? I'd say, sure. And we'd play one-on-one. He wasn't even very good. Like, I beat him. And Jace, do I ever let you win? Do I block your shot and mouth? Yes, I do. One of his buddies came over and was like, we were playing basketball, and I beat the kid, like, bam. The kid said, this isn't fun. I said, you're going to win at my house. It's because you won, not because I gave it away. Come on, somebody. You raise your kids, I'll raise mine. But if he beats me, you better believe he talks a whole lot of smack, huh? Yeah, mouthy little kid. I'm playing with this kid. I beat him every day after practice. He was a kid from a different faith, very entrenched in this other faith, really a messy situation. And I knew in that moment, I'm going to have a chance to just be Jesus to him. So every day after practice, I'd play him one-on-one. And every day, I'd beat the soup out of him. Every day. Invite him to a revival. Invite him to another revival. Invite him to church. And he'd come. And he never would respond. I remember having this thought that said, man, he don't want Jesus. He just wants knowledge. I was saying, he just isn't deep enough. He's just not deep enough. Maybe I'm wasting my time. You ever felt like that? I have some really hard, real conversations with my kids. I talked to Chloe. She was probably 6. She's 13 now. I was talking to Chloe one time about abortion. And first of all, we've partnered with a ministry called Save One, and it's geared for ladies that have had abortions, and it helps them heal. And it lets them know how much God radically loves them, right? Like, we believe that, man. It don't matter what happened. God radically loves you, okay? But at the same time, I'm trying to teach my kids about abortion, right? And God's not okay with abortion, right? Like, he's not okay with it, man. It breaks his heart. And so there was the pro-abortion bumper sticker on the back of a vehicle, and I'm sitting with Chloe. We were in Branson, and I said, Chloe, she can't read that. But you see that? And she was like, yeah. So I explained what abortion was, and not in detail, but explained about killing babies, and 56 million. And she said, in her innocence, she said, do they just walk up to the mom and put a gun to her belly and shoot the baby? And in that moment, I was like, no, baby, here. And I tried to explain. And someone says, your child is not, she's not cognitively able to understand the concept of abortion. Why are you trying to explain that at such a young age? I am not needing her to understand the ins and outs. I'm trying to plant seeds because someday she's going to vote. I'm trying to plant seeds because someday she's going to make informed decisions on her own. I'm not worried if the seed produces a harvest right now. I'm planting a seed because later in her life, I need there to be a harvest. See, the seed is not for today. The seed is for the days, months, weeks, years, decades to come. So I have uncomfortable conversations with them way too early. But it makes all the other conversations a lot easier. I had the talk with all of them at about 6. I did. That's weird, I know. But it makes conversations now a piece of cake. I'm not worried about them understanding everything. I'm planting seeds. So that later in life, it'll produce a harvest. See, my buddy, one day, he came up to me, and my buddy that I played basketball with way after high school, he came up to me and he said, and he was serving God. He was in love with Jesus. Matter of fact, he served on one of the youth teams of one of the biggest churches one of the top 100 churches in the country. And he comes to me one day and he's like, bro, I'm doing this. I'm like, Clint, I'm so proud of you. And we're talking about it. And he said, I need you to know something. When you get to heaven, you're going to know that you're there because someone did something in your life. And he said, when I get to heaven, he had these big old eyes. He said, when I get to heaven, and I realize that my eternity is there, I know it's because you played basketball with me after. I never prayed a prayer with him. Or whatever he said. I never prayed a prayer with him. I just casted some seeds. I just casted some seeds. And took him to church. And he eventually gave his life to Jesus. I think that sometimes we feel like people aren't deep enough. It's not your job to measure their depth. Or what they do with the seed doesn't matter. Cast the seed. It says that some fell among the thorns. I think sometimes we feel like it's our job to prune people so they can be like us. But that's so funny because that's the opposite of what Jesus said. He did not say this in John 15. He did not say, I am the true vine, you are the branches, and you are the vine dresser. He never said, it's your job to prune those I love. He said, I'm the vine, you're the branches, and my Father is the vine dresser, the pruner. He prunes those he loves so they'll bear much fruit and even more fruit. It's not your job to pick the thorns out of people's life. Because what happens if you spend your life picking thorns out of people's life? You ready? You get hurt. You get hurt. And you're mad at them. And they're just trying to grow. And it says some fell among the good soil and produced a 30, 60, and 100-fold. I need us to understand you cannot control what the soil does with the seed. You just sow it. It's not your job to figure it out. You just sow it. My dad was crazy in high school, junior high. He's wild, man. One time him and I don't know if he was in this mix, but there's an all-girls college in Nevada called Cotty College. And the Norman boys took a truck with a cattle trailer to Cotty and loaded up a bunch of the Cotty College girls and took them to a party. That's my family. That's hilarious. I don't know why you don't think it's funny. I think it's hilarious. They didn't have a seatbelt though. And that's a ticket now. My dad, junior high, this guy moves in and is an English teacher. He moves in to teach English. His name's Larry Richardson. And Larry loved Jesus. And Larry just cast some seed into Tim Norman's life. Just cast some seed. My dad fought for fun. My dad did drugs and a bunch of other stuff. And Larry just cast some seed. Larry never said, dang, that Tim, man, my God, I wish something would happen to him. Wish he'd go to someone else's class. Just cast some seed. 7th and 8th grade, freshman, casting seed. Picking up girls in a cattle trailer. Casting seed. Junior year, he was a great ball player. Casting seed. My dad didn't come from a Christian home. He didn't know what it was like I do to grow up in church. Didn't know what security looked like. He was trying to find it, like a lot of us are. And the whole time he's trying to find stuff to fill voids, Larry Richardson, who now is the high school counselor, is casting seed. My dad's senior year, one of his friends gets in a car wreck and is killed. And my dad's, for the first time, is dealing with eternity. For the first time in his life, he's dealing with his own mortality. Like someone his age was just killed and I don't know how to cope with it. So what does he do? He goes to the cornfield and gets drunk. No, that's not it. He goes and does some drugs. No, he didn't do that either. He went and found a relationship that would soothe the pain that he was currently feeling. No, that's not what he did either. He went and he was trying to find something that could bring some hope in his life. And he knocked on Larry Richardson's door. Larry opened the door. Well, Tim, how are you? My dad's broken. He said, I'm broken. Here's what happened. Larry invited my dad in. Mr. Richardson invited my dad in. In that moment, my dad gave his life to Jesus Christ. And he was radically changed. Because in 7th grade, Larry was sowing seed. Because in 8th grade, Larry was sowing seed. Because when my dad was acting a fool, Larry was casting seed into Tim's life. When Tim was living his own way, Larry was just casting seeds. And now my dad's a pastor, and I'm a pastor. My brother's a pastor, and we've traveled the world sharing Jesus. And I can say thousands and thousands and literally thousands of people have made their eternity from hell to heaven, not because of Bo, not because of TW, of course because of God, but not because of Tim, but because Larry Richardson, when my dad was crazy in 7th grade, casting seed. Casting is still, heaven today is still being populated because 40 years ago, Larry Richardson. How many apple seeds were in that apple? Say it loud. Loud. There it is. I got them both. I expected there to be a lot more. There were 2 apple seeds in that apple. We could cut this apple open. I'm not going to make it. We could cut this apple open and count the seeds in this apple. But heaven only knows the number of apple trees in each seed. See, the problem is most of our life, we've been looking at it the wrong way. We've been saying, but I'm an apple, and I'm an apple, and I want to be an apple, and all this. And God's going, I need you to get your eyes off of the right now and get your eyes on the future. I need to get your eyes off of the temporal, and I need you to get your eyes on eternity. You are no longer an apple. You are an apple tree producing fruit. Coach D, fruit, and more fruit. You are no longer just an apple, y'all. You are an apple tree. I have this conversation with my kids all the time. I say, because of Clayne. This is why. I tell my kids, and you can ask Jace, and I probably make him uncomfortable. But I say, Jace, you have people in your world, and you can affect, you can make an eternal difference in their life. At 11 years old, because I've watched it happen. My daughter, Chloe, we travel a lot, and she gets a text one night from this broken 10-year-old. Broken 10-year-old that says, I'm struggling with my sexual identity, and you probably don't want to be my friend anymore, do you? This kid lives states away. Like, we've met her once, and she texts my daughter that. And my daughter responds and says something to the effect of, first of all, I need you to know that I love you. And more than I need you to know that I love you, I need you to know that God radically loves you. And I know you're broken right now, and I know you're confused right now, but I need you to know that God has something incredible for your future. And then I believe she helped her to maybe get in contact with one of the pastors in that state. My daughter was 11, y'all. See, I think the problem is we think we're not deep enough. I'm going to tell you, and then we're going to sing, and then Pastor Clinton's going to close. And then when you leave, I'm going to give you an apple so that you'll always remember you're an apple tree. But I'm going to tell you what I tell my kids. You have what's in you to make an eternal difference in someone's life. There is greatness in you. You're not an apple, you're an apple tree. I believe in Jesus' name there's politicians going to be birthed out of this church because you're an apple tree. Come on, somebody. I believe new businesses and greatness. There's greatness in you. But more than anything, inside of you, God has put what it takes to change someone's eternity this week. In you. Let's go, guys. In you, God has put greatness to affect one person or more, but for sure, one person's eternity. The question is, when we leave, what do we do with it?
All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God all my life.
Well, first I would want to think just for a second. Maybe today's message kind of sparked a conversation that you had with someone a long time ago, and they had planted a seed into your heart, and today God is calling that seed to life. No one looking around and no one messing around right now. And maybe today Jesus is doing a new thing in your life and you want to make Him the Lord and Savior of your life. And we're going to say a corporate prayer, but in your heart, I want you to just believe what you're saying. If that's you today, and God is doing a work on your heart, just say this prayer with me and believe it. But we're all going to say it just for the sake of those around us. Would you repeat after me? Father, I believe you sent your Son Jesus to die on a cross, to raise Him back to life, to save me. I ask forgiveness for my sin and promise to live for you forever. In Jesus' name, amen. Hey, if you said that prayer right now, would you just be a bold person, just to lift your hand right where you are? I just want to pray with you. I just want to make sure that we connect with you. If that's you, just lift your hand right where you are, right in your seat right now. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hey, can we celebrate with all of heaven this morning? Amen. Amen. Secondly, we do have an apple to give to you on your way out. And I hope it changes your perception of an apple for the rest of you. I hope you can't get every time you see an apple, I just hope that that's all you can think of. Is that God has incredible things that's going to come out of you from the seeds that you plant everywhere you go. So I'm going to pray with you. Father God, I pray right now, God, first for those that made a decision to follow you today, God, I pray that you just anoint them with your presence right now. And God, that today they have made you a real, they have expressed outwardly the inward work that you've been doing in their life. And God, today I pray that you bless them for it. Father, I pray that they share with those around and that people build them up. And God, today, for the rest of us that are just, sometimes we're timid, sometimes we're shy, sometimes we don't think that we have it in us, sometimes that we think we're not deep enough. But God, today we are committing to everywhere that we go, be a seed of what you've blessed us with inside. Jesus, I thank you in advance for the things that are going to come from this message today, from people spreading seed everywhere they go. Jesus, in your name we pray. Amen, amen. Hey, one last time, can we give just a big round of applause for the decision of people that know Jesus today? Amen.